Welcome, instructional leaders. I'm Felicia Thomas Phelps. Today, you'll learn the SIG Framework, a structure that will change how you deliver feedback that creates real classroom improvement. Let's start with this question about why constructive feedback after observation matters. Pause the video, look at these answers, and figure out which one you feel is the best solution. Hopefully you chose number one. It helps teachers improve their practice and student outcomes. There are two types of feedback. Here's what I see too often. On the left, your lesson lacked engagement. Students seem bored. You need to do better. Compared to, I noticed 3 students checking phones during the lecture portion. What if we explored some interactive strategies for that 15-minute segment? One shuts down conversation, the other opens up collaborative problem solving. Take a moment to think about this question. Pause the video and unpause when you're ready to move forward. Before we dive deeper, let's get honest about where you are right now with giving post-observation feedback. Are you very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, or is it challenging for you? Whether you chose comfortable, somewhat comfortable, or challenging, today's framework will give you more confidence and better results with these crucial conversations. The challenge we face is when feedback goes wrong, teachers become defensive. Feedback feels like criticism, and we damage relationships. The SIG framework breaks this pattern. It gives you a clear roadmap for effective feedback conversations. Let's look at what each one stands for. S stands for specific observations. You'll share exactly what you saw using factual, neutral language. No interpretations, no judgments, just the observable data. I stands for the impact on student learning. You'll connect those observations to how they affected student engagement, understanding, or progress. G stands for growth-focused next steps. Together with the teacher, you'll identify one specific collaborative action they can take. This framework keeps every conversation centered on what matters most, student learning outcomes. Now, we're going to put this framework into practice. Are you ready? Grab that pen, grab something to write on, because I'm going to walk you through 3 real scenarios I've encountered in our adult education centers, and we'll apply the SIG framework to each one. Remember, you can always pause the video to take notes. First scenario. You observe a 45-minute lesson with continuous lecturing at the front of the room, no student interaction, 4 students are on their phones by minute 30, and you observe glazed expressions throughout the entire lecture. Based on what you just heard about scenario 1, what were the key observed issues? Pause the video, look at these answers, and figure out which one you think is the correct one. Hopefully you chose all of the above. You see the pattern? All of these issues were interconnected. Continuous lecturing led to no student interaction, which resulted in disengagement. Now, let's see how the SIG framework addresses this. Specific observation. I noticed that during the 45-minute session, instruction was primarily lecture-based. At the 30-minute mark, I observed 4 students using phones, and no student questions or responses occurred throughout the lesson. Impact statement. Without opportunities to interact with the content, students may struggle to retain information and stay mentally engaged with the learning objectives. Growth statement. What if we explored adding one interactive element, perhaps a 2-minute partner discussion or a quick poll around the 20-minute mark? This could help maintain student engagement throughout the lesson. Now notice how this opens up collaboration rather than criticism. Our second scenario involves a new teacher in their second month. They demonstrate strong subject knowledge and have clear lesson objectives posted, but classroom management is the challenge. Students talked during instruction with 7 interruptions. The teacher stopped the lesson 3 times to address behavior. The lesson ran 10 minutes over, and you could see visible teacher frustration by the end. This is delicate territory. New teachers often feel insecure already. What should be the most important focus for feedback with this new teacher? Pause the video, look at your options, and see which one you feel is the most important one for now. Hopefully you focused in on B, classroom management strategies. This is a critical decision point. With new teachers, we want to build confidence while addressing real challenges. Let's see how the SIG framework helps us do both. Look at the specific. I observed strong content knowledge and clear learning objectives. I also noted 7 verbal interruptions during instruction, which required you to pause the lesson 3 times to redirect student attention. Impact statement. These interruptions reduced instructional time by about 8 minutes and may have made it difficult for students to follow the lesson flow and for you to cover all planned material. Growth statement. Let's work together on 2 to 3 proactive management strategies that can prevent interruptions. Would you be interested in observing Mrs. Johnson's class this week? She has techniques for maintaining student attention that might work well for your teaching style. See how this frames the issues as something to solve together, building on their strengths. Our third scenario is the trickiest. We have a veteran teacher with 18 years of experience. They have a well-organized, traditional lesson structure with respectful, on-task students. However, instruction is teacher-centered throughout, with no technology integration. You've observed the same methods for 3 years, and they've been resistant to previous suggestions for change. With resistant veterans, the SIG framework becomes your best ally because it keeps you focused on the evidence rather than opinions. Here's how to approach the veteran teacher. Specifics. I observed a well-structured lesson with clear transition and respectful student behavior. Students followed along attentively during the 35-minute presentation and completed the worksheet assignment as directed. Impact statement. Your classroom management creates an effective learning environment. I'm wondering about opportunities for students to demonstrate their understanding in different ways and to practice the skills they're learning. Growth statement. You mentioned last week that some of the students struggle with retention on tests. What if we tried one small change, maybe having students explain one concept to a partner before the worksheet? This builds on your strong foundation while giving you more insight into student understanding. Notice how I acknowledge what's working before suggesting growth opportunities. On your own, pause the video and think about one additional suggested growth strategy for this veteran teacher in this scenario 3. Think about those small changes that build on their existing strength while introducing new elements. Of course, yours may differ from mine, but I thought about infusing technology into the lesson. What did you come up with? Here is your quick reference for SIG conversations. Remember to use neutral, factual language for observations, connect to student learning for impact, make growth collaborative with phrases like, "What if we tried?" Keep this quick reference handy. Now, according to the quick reference, what type of language should be used when giving specific feedback to teachers? Pause the video, look at the solutions, and see if you can find the right answer. That's exactly right. Neutral and factual language is key. This keeps the conversation focused on observable data rather than judgments or interpretations. Now, let's talk about implementing this framework effectively. Here are 5 tips plus a bonus that will make or break your success. Tip number 1, schedule follow-up within 24 hours of observation. Don't let momentum fade. 2, start with something positive you observed. This sets a collaborative tone. 3, focus on one growth area per conversation. Multiple issues overwhelm teachers. Tip 4, ask for teacher input with "What are your thoughts?" It makes it truly collaborative. Tip number 5, end with specific next steps and timeline. Vague suggestions don't create change. And as a bonus, document the SIG conversation for follow-up support. This shows you're interested and you're invested in their growth. Now, which of these is not one of the 5 implementation tips for effective SIG conversations? Pause the video, look at your solutions, and figure out which is the right answer. Right, we focus on one growth area per conversation, not multiple. This prevents teacher overwhelm and increases the likelihood of actual implementation. Here are your key action steps moving forward. Use the SIG framework consistently, focus on one specific area per conversation, create collaborative dialogue rather than one-way feedback, and schedule follow-up support to ensure implementation. These aren't just suggestions, they're essential practices that separate effective instructional leaders from those who struggle with feedback conversation. On your own time, complete this statement. Thank you for your continued commitment to improving instruction across Georgia's adult education system. And remember the motto, inspire the SIG way. Your role as an instructional leader directly impacts student success. Tools like this SIG framework help you maximize the impact.